what the files included: incriminating documents, incriminating charts, incriminating presentations, incriminating blueprints, incriminating photos, incriminating videos, and more. We've shared this material with the United States, and the United States can vouch for its authenticity.
Hello everyone, I'm Graham Ledger, and welcome to the Daily Ledger, our cover story, the probable final days of the Iran nuke deal. President Trump has fewer than 2 weeks to decide the fate of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, aka the JCPOA. This on the heels of a damning revelation by Israel that Iran was and probably is seeking nuclear weapons. A clear indication that not only is Iran lying, but it is in breach of the nuclear agreement. Now, the response from the terrorist Iranian regime, simple and predictable. Iran is, in turn, calling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a liar.
Benjamin Netanyahu on primetime TV and once again taking aim at Iran. The Israeli Prime Minister says the country's intelligence has obtained a trove of secret files which prove Iran covered up its nuclear program before it signed a deal with world powers in 2015. President Donald Trump is threatening to pull out of that deal this month.
In 7 years, that deal will have expired and Iran is free to go ahead and create nuclear weapons. That's not acceptable. 7 years is tomorrow. That's not acceptable. So no, if anything, it's proven right what Israel has done today with the news conference.
Signatories to the Iran nuclear deal are skeptical of Israel's timing. Several world leaders have recently tried to persuade Trump to stick with it. Iran dismissed allegations as old propaganda and accused the US and Israel of ganging up to cancel the deal.
We hope we never have to come to this situation and hope that Mr. Trump and his colleagues, his government, come to their senses and do not cause a headache and create problems either for themselves nor for us or others.
Observers are concerned rising tensions between Israel and Iran may spiral out of control. Trump has less than 2 weeks to decide whether to renew America's endorsement of the Iran nuclear agreement.
So on May 12, the president can, 1, do nothing, effectively re-upping the Iran nuke deal for another quarter, or 2, restart crippling sanctions against Iran. Now remember, the president already back in October last year decertified the JCPOA. But here are the questions. Are the materials laid out by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu new? And how important is this cache of Iran's nuclear weapon development documents that was obtained by Israel? Joining me now, the founder of the American Truth Project and Daily Ledger contributor, Barry Nussbaum. Barry, mainstream media, Team Obama, they're out there all day today saying, oh, this is nothing new, don't worry about it, we already knew about this stuff. Yet this does prove that Iran was lying. They lied up and down regarding seeking nuclear weapons. And apparently, if you listen to Benjamin Netanyahu, read between the lines, and he says semi-explicitly that Iran is probably still working on the bomb. They just don't have access to all the facilities. What exactly do all of these people need? And by these people, I mean the Team Obama people, the mainstream media, the folks in Europe who are saying the agreement is fine. Do they need an incinerated Tel Aviv to realize that this is a deal with the devil?
Graham, that might do it. You've got to look at the motivations behind the almost absurd theater where they do not want to let this deal go. I think there's two different motivations. The European leaders have signed billions of dollars in commerce deals with Iran. They don't want to let those deals go.
Yeah.
They're going to sell them cars and missiles and tanks and trade in oil and textiles. They don't want to let that go. And don't forget, Iran has never threatened Western Europe. They're not worried about a missile hitting London, Paris, or Berlin. It's just us. So it's our problem, not the European problem. In the United States, people will do anything to protect the legacy of Barack Obama, even defining his legacy as brilliant when it comes to the absurd Iran nuclear deal, maybe the worst deal in American diplomatic history.
But Paris and London and the other European cities need to worry because Iran has the ICBMs that can reach them. So they'd be foolish to really adhere to something like that. But let's look at what Mossad got. This was an incredible, behind enemy lines, if you will, raid of a secret nuclear archive, half a ton of documents, some 55,000 pages, 183 CDs, all pertaining to developing nuclear weapons by Iran. Barry, this is the kind of stuff of which movies are made. To go into Iran and then pull this stuff out, how in the world did they do it?
I have heard several different stories out of Iran, Graham. I got to label this the intelligence coup of at least this century, if not the last century. They got away with half a ton of paper, 100,000 documents that prove without a shadow of a doubt, and they've been authenticated now by American intelligence as well, that Iran has been, was, and will continue their nuclear program, their ballistic missile delivery program, and plan on keeping it a secret from the West. So everything is there. That has never come to light before this week.
And as Benjamin Netanyahu pointed out through the graphics that he had, this was hidden in some kind of storage facility, just kind of a benign-looking storage facility. So you have to ask, how many other storage facilities like this are there in Iran, whether it's in Tehran or other parts of the country? And that leads me to the other part of the problem with the JCPOA, is that inspectors, international inspectors, have no access to military sites in Iran. So you don't know what they're doing behind closed doors with these military sites.
Well, look, Iran is in compliance with the JCPOA, the worst deal in international diplomatic history. As you just pointed out astutely, Graham, there are no inspections on the military bases. There are no inspections by IAEA until the IAEA asks Iran to inspect their own bases. And if Iran says, hey, we didn't find anything, and the UN wants to look, they can make an appointment, and sometimes the appointments are granted a couple months from now, giving Iran plenty of time to move stuff around, and sometimes the appointments are just declined. We don't know what's under the big mountain at Fordo. It's an enormous facility built for billions of dollars under the biggest mountain in Iran. Why would you put nuclear materials under there if it was for medical purposes, as Netanyahu asked that question rhetorically? It's a military base making military weapons-grade uranium. Why? To blow up things. The evidence they took out of that storage facility said, we are going to build a minimum of 5 nuclear bombs and missiles to deliver them around the world. You've got to be illiterate and asleep not to understand this has changed the entire understanding of what Iran has been doing for decades.
Now, on the heels of this, Barry, there's been a couple of airstrikes in Syria that targeted Iranian locations in that country, in the country of Syria, not Iran, in Syria. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds here, but are these strikes linked to the raid that took place in Iran?
There's no question. There's an enormous difference in the leadership of Prime Minister Netanyahu and the leadership of President Obama. Obama's red lines mean nothing. You better listen when Netanyahu draws a red line. He made it very clear. Missiles brought into Syria by Iran will be targeted, found out, and destroyed. There's no question that the 200 missiles blown up a couple days ago and some half a division of Iranian soldiers killed were targeted because those missiles were going to be sent into Israel.
All right,
who blew them up? Well, who knows?
we just heard in the report just a couple of minutes ago that the Prime Minister will be given probably some authority to declare war. Now, none of this stuff happens in a vacuum, right? I mean, you kind of have to step back and you have to look at the big picture. And if you kind of digest what we just saw Israel unveil and embarrass the Iranians, let's face it. I mean, they have a lot of red faces there. The only thing they can come back with is saying he's a liar. But he has pictures, he has evidence. So it seems to me that this could be a precursor to war. Now, I know we've been talking about this for many, many years, possibly decades, in that region of the world. But here, from an Israeli perspective, you have a clear and present imminent danger, an imminent threat to the Israelis, right? But from the Iranian perspective, hey, wait a minute, you have Israel coming in there, violating their sovereignty. I can see a war starting from either side because of this.
Yeah, there's no question that Israel is preparing for armed conflict. I hear it every day from my sources in Israel. And quite frankly, Graham, they're justified. Iran is saying if Trump decertifies the deal on May 12th, they're going full speed ahead building bombs. And the evidence that we just discovered shows they've already been doing that. The question now is whether or not there's going to be war quickly, or it's going to happen in several weeks or maybe in several months. I think we need the leadership of Trump to let us know whether or not the United States takes the lead or simply supports Israel.
I think that on May 12th, on or before May 12th, we're going to find out, and the Iranians are going to find out how different this president is, President 45 versus President 44, who gave him this golden goose of a deal that unfortunately is allowing them and buying them time to build the bomb. So at some point, something's got to give. And I think we're nearing that point where Benjamin Netanyahu is saying it's got to give. Barry, thank you.